She was just the maid until she wore the wrong coat, stepped into the wrong life, and collided with a man who would break and remake her. The air inside the suite held the silence of secrets, the kind that clung to velvet curtains. Emmy stood before the grand wardrobe, her fingers trembling as they touched the fur coat hanging within. Soft, luxurious, and weightless. It was everything she was not. Her hands, roughened by years of unseen labor, hesitated. But temptation was a quiet flame, and tonight it flickered too bright to ignore. Until the bathroom door burst open, and his voice, warm, eager, and devastatingly mistaken, pierced the illusion. "Darling, you're back." His arms wrapped around her from behind, strong, familiar, and utterly wrong. Emmy froze, her pulse hammering beneath the stolen coat. Before she could speak, a sharper voice slashed through the room. "Cheater! How could you?" The doorframe held another woman, beautiful, furious, and betrayed, Olivia. Daniel's confusion was a storm across his face. "Olivia? Wait, who are you?" His hands dropped from Emmy's waist as if burned. Emmy turned slowly, her face pale, her lips forming words she couldn't say. I'm just... Get out!" Daniel's voice was sharper than glass. "You've ruined everything." Thrown into the hallway, the coat still clinging to her like a second skin, Emmy pressed her back against the door. Her hands slipped into the coat's deep pockets, and her fingers found something small and cold. A ring. A diamond ring. Her breath hitched. How had she done this? How had a single mistake unraveled not just her night, but his life? The door flung open again. Daniel, eyes burning with frustration, stood before her. "What the hell do you want?" "Nothing," she whispered, closing her fingers around the ring, but fate was far from done with either of them. The elevator chimed, and Daniel's boss stepped out. "There's my favorite couple. Where's your lovely fiancé?" "Fiancé?" Daniel stammered. I can explain." The boss's smile was wide and expectant. "Nonsense. I already spoke with her." His eyes landed on Emmy, still cloaked in the coat, the diamond ring glinting on her trembling hand. "There she is." "Me?" Emmy's voice was barely above a whisper. "Of course. You said yes, didn't you?" Emmy's mind spun, but her lips, reckless and desperate, said, "Yes." "Wonderful." The boss clapped his hands. "Dinner's on me. Come, lovebirds." Daniel's fingers closed around Emmy's wrist, his grip tight with panic. "You're going to pretend to be my fiancé tonight," he hissed under his breath. "Or you can say goodbye to your job." The coat became her prison, the ring her shackle. Emmy followed Daniel into the shimmering dining hall, where crystal chandeliers hung like frozen rain, and every table was a stage for performances of wealth and power. "Emmy, may I take your coat?" the boss offered. "No," Emmy blurted. I'm cold." Daniel leaned in, his voice a whisper. "You need to change. I can't have you ruining this." "But I never meant to ruin anything," Emmy said, her voice soft with guilt. "Not your relationship, not your life." "Relationship," Daniel corrected bitterly. "Not fiancé." Emmy's fingers found the small velvet box in the coat pocket, the one holding the ring. "This was in the coat," she said quietly, handing it to him. Daniel opened it, his expression darkening at the name inside. "Who the hell is Jake?" The answer came with the arrival of Olivia, her heels clicking like a warning. "Jake," she said with a twisted smile, "is the man who proposed before you." "You're the cheater?" Daniel's voice cracked. "And you're the fool who hugged a maid." Olivia sneered. "At least Jake has money." She yanked the ring from Emmy's finger, sliding it onto her own. "This coat deserves better than you." Emmy stood frozen, but her heart stirred in an unfamiliar way. Daniel, arrogant and sharp-tongued, stood shattered before her, and something in her couldn't bear it. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Don't be ridiculous," Daniel snapped. "You don't care." But she did, for reasons she couldn't name. Daniel turned to leave, the weight of betrayal dragging each step. "The only thing anyone cares about is money," he said. Emmy's fingers curled into fists. "I'll make you regret those words, Daniel. I'll show you what a girl like me is capable of." Back in the dressing room, she shed her uniform, her old self, her hesitation. A new dress, sleek, crimson, daring, slid over her skin. Lipstick painted her resolve in bold red. Perfume misted her secrets in the air. Something had shifted inside her. The maid was gone. When Emmy returned to the dining table, Daniel's boss rose, surprised. "Emmy, I was starting to think you'd vanished." Daniel, speechless, watched her approach. Transformed, she leaned into his ear, her breath soft against his skin. You're going to pull out my chair and smile, or I'll make tonight even worse for you. Daniel's lips twitched. What? She leaned closer. My zipper. Fix it. He stood, hands brushing the length of her back, zipping her into the new skin she'd chosen for herself. The touch lingered too long, and Emmy felt the tremor beneath his fingers. So, Emmy, the boss began. Tell me, why Daniel? After all, he's a brute. Emmy lifted her whiskey, letting the silence stretch. Because he isn't just a brute. She took a slow sip, then smiled. He keeps the Lord of the Rings under his pillow, eats every chocolate in the minibar and folds the wrappers into little origami birds. And in the shower, he sings Taylor Swift. Badly. The boss laughed. I'd love to hear that. Emmy's voice softened. He falls asleep at his desk, so I leave him a pillow every night. Daniel's eyes widened. That was you? Of course, the boss said. Who else would care enough? Daniel stared at her. The maid, the stranger, the woman who knew him in ways even Olivia never did. She's a thief, Daniel said, standing. A shameless thief. Emmy's breath caught. She stole my heart. He took her hand, and now I'm stealing her for the rest of the night. They walked away, side by side, as Olivia sat alone, her ring sparkling under the chandelier's light, but her hands empty. To be continued. Want to know how a stolen coat and a single night change their fates forever? Stay tuned for part 2, where secrets unravel, hearts collide, and love is tested in the unlikeliest of places.